Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, hello, my name is Ira Mayman. I work for the Secretary of State. I'm the manager of the Joliet formal hearing location. I also supervise the informals throughout the state. To give you a little bit of my history, I've been with the state. I was started in 1985 with drivers and immediately went to administrative hearings. I left the Secretary of State in 2000. And I went to work for a private attorney who concentrated in Secretary of State hearings. I left the attorney in 2013, came back to the Secretary of State, so I've got many years' experience in this field. So we're going to start out by breaking down what's on a driving record and how to read it. So on a driving record, there's different entries on the driving record. It includes terms and conditions of a license, convictions of tickets, including tickets that were received in another state and sent to us, accident reports. When an accident report is on a driving record, it doesn't show fault. It's kind of like a record-keeping system. What a lot of people are not aware of, if you get supervision for a ticket, that also goes on your driving record. Any sanctions a person might have, which is a suspension, revocation, cancellation, and also record transactions. That could be something as simple as going to the Secretary of State and applying for a change of address on your driver's license. All that goes on the driving record. Okay. There's different types of driving records. The information that's available to the public is basically license status, conviction, and sanction information. Addresses and personal information are not provided to private citizens. The courts get what's called a court purpose abstract. As an attorney, that's also the abstract that you would want to get. That also includes accident reports, supervision dispositions, and juvenile adjudications. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we talk, for example, about DUI. First offender, if the summary suspension is closed and the person gets supervision for the DUI, that does not go on a public record. So if an insurance company or an employer run the driving record, they will not see that first offense. If they run the record while the summary suspension is active, they will see it then. Okay. When are convictions and sanctions removed from the record? So convictions which do not cause a sanction, like a speeding ticket, for example, are removed approximately every 4.5 years after the date of the court action, which in this case would be a conviction date. Minor supervisions and accident reports, which are not related to, again, to a sanction, are also removed in approximately 4.5 years. If a person's license is canceled for a reason and then reinstated from the cancellation, that cancellation will come off anywhere from 5.5 to 10.5 years. A person can be canceled for many reasons, including maybe not being eligible to receive the license they got, also medical. So there's different reasons for a cancellation. Sanctions and the convictions which cause them are removed approximately 7.5 to 10.5 years after the sanction terminates, with the following exceptions. DUI, and that's any sanction too. In Illinois, you're allowed one supervision in a lifetime. In order to know that you've had that supervision, the one time, it has to stay on the driving record. Reckless homicide, leaving the scene of an accident involving personal injury or fatal. Any commercial driver's license sanctions. So if you're a CDL driver and you have sanctions on your record, that stays with you, and it also transfers with you state to state if you end up moving to another state. Breath test refusals and failures, commonly known as the statutory summary suspension. Again, those stay on your record for life. Displayed only. Okay, so again, this goes to what I was saying earlier. The records of the first offenders displayed only during the term of suspension. They remain on the public record for 10 years from the termination date of the sanction and are then suppressed. Convictions become eligible to be removed after 4 years. Sanctions and their causes become eligible 7 to 10 years. The reason there's a gap is because really the more you have on your driving record, the longer things stay on. And then it also then depends on what type of sanctions are on your driving record, which could keep things on your record longer. Extra half years added because they are routinely removed through a specialized computer program which is run twice a year. Everything is programmed nowadays. So again, the types of driving records, there are 3 types. Internal is what we have at the Secretary of State, and that obviously does give the most information. Court affected is what, as an attorney, you would get. Law enforcement, that's what the state's attorney will have at the time of court. And then there's the external, or what we call a public record, and that's generally what the employers or insurance companies get. And that contains a lot less information. Suspension. Suspension is a temporary loss of driving privileges. Once the suspension is terminated, the person receives their driving privileges back. Generally, there's 2 types of suspensions. For the most part, there's what's called a time length suspension. An 03 is one of them, a 17, which is a statutory summary. Those terminate at the end of the period of time. Some of them in conjunction with the reinstatement fee, but either way, they terminate at the end of a period of time. And then there's compliance suspensions. You see there 04, 05, 06. And those are all dealing with a car accident. 05 is the SR22 insurance. 07, parking tickets. 09, unpaid ticket from court. You got a ticket, never showed up. And then FP is failure to pay a fine. And those are all compliance. They stay open on your record until you comply. And once you comply, they close up or terminate. Revocation. Revocation is an 01, type action 01 or 02. Revocation, for the most part, stays open forever until you clear it through a hearing. I one time did a hearing on a person whose DUI was the year I was born, 1962. He's been revoked this whole time. So he just never bothered to try and get his license back. Revocations have what's called a projected eligibility date. If you have a hearing within the projected eligibility date, you're only eligible to apply for a restricted driving permit. We'll get into that at another time, the different types of permits available. Hearing after the projected eligibility date, they are eligible to ask for their full driving privileges back. Cancellation of a driver's license. It could be because a license was issued in error or defect of the license, no longer entitled. Again, there's just so many different reasons. There's times where we found a second license on a person, so they'll cancel the most recent one issued. Again, medical. Any reason if a person shouldn't have a license, it gets canceled. So here's where we start with the driving record. These are the type of records that you would receive. And if you look to the far right column, it's a stop in effect. It's either going to be blank, yes, or no. When you see a yes, that's what telling you that that entry on the driving record is what's currently stopping the person from having a valid driver's license. So then from this part, you go to the very far left for the type action. Now in these 2 cases, the type action is the same. 09, unpaid ticket. So 09 is the actual suspension. The effective date, we'll start with the first one, was 2708. The date he received the ticket is 9507. 6306.3 is the authority section to suspend under not appearing in court for the ticket. In this case, it tells you it's Adams Court, and the ticket number, again, is right under the word suspension, is 123. So the person would call Adams Court, give them the ticket number, probably their driver's license number, and Adams Court will tell them how to clear the ticket. I'm going to go into something else with you over here, too. The next entry is, again, another 09. The effective date was 2/7/08, arrest date 10/9/07, different arrest date. Ticket number 456, again Adams County. So you call the number to clear it. To jump ahead on a record, the next two lines are both convictions of tickets. 601 is a speeding ticket, 710 I believe is following too closely. So both of those are point tickets. One of the things is when you have a client, for example, with the 209s, if you were to just tell them, just go pay the ticket, they're pleading guilty to the ticket. The ticket will come down, the conviction will come down. If both of those are moving violations, that person then has 4 convictions of tickets issued within a year of each other, so that person will now be suspended for 3 or more moving violations in a 12-month period because the tickets were issued at within a year of each other. So they go by the issuing or the conviction. So either way, in a case like this, you might be best not to pay the tickets or have them pay it, but see if they could be motioned up. We just look for ways. There's a separate page for suspensions. In this case, or supervision, which we'll get to. In this case, this driving record was run on 4/17/13, and the driving record then tells you that when it was run, the person was suspended. And in this case, this is the supervision page, which tells you that at the time he had no supervisions on his record. Okay, so on this driving record here too, you can see the first line, 93. 93, we're going to go to the type action far left. 93 is a bond forfeiture conviction of an immediate action ticket. Ticket was issued 10/27/89, convicted 1/3/90, offense 6101. 6101 is the charge of driving without a valid license. It says it right on there too. That one charge, it's immediate action, it caused the next entry, which is an 03. Suspension, which took effect 3/20/90, terminated 5/20/90, 2-month suspension under authority section 6206A19, having been convicted of operating a motor vehicle without a valid license or permit. Now here you see no, and what no means is at one time that entry was a stop on the person's driving record, but has since been cleared. Next entry, statutory summary suspension. So you see here there's a yes, current stop in effect. It bounces around a little bit here. You got to find where it'll say arrest date 5/9/92 with the suspension taking effect 6/24/92. In this particular case, it was provisional to end 9/24/92, 11501.1. This happened in Lake County. It also shows you that he had a 3-month suspension for taking a test and failing, 0.17. If he refused, it'd say RF, and if it was positive for drugs, it'd be DG. This is the one type of suspension that remains open and in effect until you clear it by paying the reinstatement fee. So this person could have paid the reinstatement fee back in 92, September, and that suspension would be clear. At that time, it was $60. Now it's $250, and the reinstatement fee will be based on when he pays it. Go to the next entry. Again, 09 type action. Yes, current stop in effect. The arrest date was 1/11/92. The suspension took effect 7/15/92. This case, Cook County, 1st District. So again, the phone number is there. And the summary suspension was in effect on 4/17/13 when the abstract was run. Shows the same thing. It's a different type of an abstract, just to kind of show you that a lot of times abstracts don't contain much that involve a driver's license. You see the first 4 lines here. Those are all CDL entries for medical certificates. For the most part, it really has nothing to do with most driving records, but when a person's a CDL driver, we keep records of their medical certificates because they're required to show it. In this particular case, the last 2 entries here, yes, 08 cancellations, effective 3/5/13, they are, in this case, canceling the driver's license and the permit because of some type of non-medical certificate that was needed. And again, when you comply with that, the 08 cancellation will be cleared and those will turn to a no. Was canceled on that date. Okay, so here, get into a few more different types of items here. First line, 94, straight conviction. The arrest date 6/20/81. Disposition date, we know it's a conviction because the type action 94 is for a ticket. Convicted on 7/17/81, the offense of 6101, driving without a valid license. Ticket number, not a commercial motor vehicle, and then again the charge, driving without a valid license. That triggered the next line, again 94 is immediate action ticket. The 03 suspension, which took effect 9/16/81, terminated 11/16/81, 2 months suspension for the first offense. 6/206/819, having been convicted of operating a motor vehicle without a valid license. Again, no in the stop column. At one time that was an open suspension, it's since been cleared. Go to the third line, third entry, type action 99, immediate or point ticket. The arrest date was 6/18/84, convicted 11/21/84. If 1 is short for 11, so it's an 11/601 speeding ticket. Again, the ticket number, first district, and it shows down there, speeding 11/14 over the limit. Next entry is a 99, again, conviction of a point ticket. The arrest date 6/16/84, convicted 7/29/84. Here's where it can get a little confusing. The offense 8/709. 8 is the code for out of state, so you have to kind of know what 709 is. In this case, 8, if it happened in Illinois, would be a 1 over there, which is 11. 11/709 is improper lane usage. Go below it, the ticket number, jurisdiction, MI. Is that, it's either Missouri or Mississippi?
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. Improper lane usage. You go to the next entry, type action 17, and again there's a no. So it was active at one time, has since been closed. 17, statutory summary suspension. We do know that's part of a DUI arrest. In this case, the arrest took place 12/22/86. Summary suspension starts 46 days after the day of arrest, so that was 2/6/87. Terminated 12/14/87, so that's about 10 months. Suspension length, 3 months. Took a breath test, blue .10. The reason it went 10 months is because it stayed open until he cleared it through a hearing. Or, I'm sorry, until he paid the reinstatement fee. So since he didn't pay it until December, it stayed open until December. Next line, 97, bond forfeiture conviction of a point ticket. Again, the arrest 7/17/86, convicted 10/10/86, offense 601, which we know is speeding. Cook County First District, speeding 1 to 10 over the limit. So now we go to the very next entry, type action 55, supervision for an offense. The arrest was 12/22/86, supervision 5/14/87, the offense 11/501, DUI. You go back up to the 17, the arrest 12/22/86, that's how you tied the two together. So he took a breath test for that DUI, failed with a .10, and he got supervision for the DUI. Supervision for immediate action tickets go on the main driving record. They do not go on that last page. That last page of supervisions is for supervisions for minor tickets. Next entry, 99, conviction of immediate action, of a point ticket. The arrest date was 2/17/89, convicted 3/3/89, again 8, meaning out of state, 601 would be speeding, plus we know that by down here. State jurisdiction IN, Indiana. Next entry, 99, conviction of a point ticket. He was arrested 12/6/89, convicted 3/12/90, 2/6/01, speeding. Sometimes there's two, sometimes there's one. Haven't figured out why they do that yet. Cook County, 2nd District, 11/14 over the limit. And again, the next entry, another 99, conviction of a point ticket. Arrest date 4/7/90, convicted 7/17/90, 2/6/01, speeding again. Cook County 4th District, Maywood, speeding 11/14. That guy likes to speed. 29 was a failure to appear that he had, failure to appear suspension. In this case, he had it in Georgia. So we're keeping track of the fact that he had that suspension and he has cleared it. So it's no longer a hold or problem on his driving record. And top line here, conviction 99, the arrest date 3/7/91, convicted 6/4/91, again 8 out of state, 6/01 speeding, 11/14 over, speeding in Nebraska. Then the next entry, 29, he had again a failure to appear, which he cleared in the state of Georgia. 99, conviction, the arrest date was 3/30/91, convicted 7/15/91 for 2/7/03 improper passing, 1st District, Cook County. Those last few tickets generated the 03 suspension on the bottom line here. Effective 11/11/91, terminated 5/11/92, so it was a 6-month suspension for having 3 or more convictions or moving violation convictions in a 12-month period. No, he was suspended for that at one time, but has since cleared. Date the abstract was run, he had no valid license. So here is a list of serious violations. These are broken down for really for CDL. 2 convictions, supervision, or combination of the 2 within a 3-year period equals a disqualification. So at times you're going to see when a person has a CDL license, it's 2 licenses combined in one. It's your regular vehicle license and the CDL portion of your license. And in this particular case, it's possible to lose the CDL portion, which is called a disqualification or type action DQ, without losing your car license, so you can still drive your car. So these are the guidelines that give you the disqualification. And again, we're used to if you get 3 convictions of a ticket in a 12-month period, your license gets suspended. When you're a CDL driver, if it's 2 convictions or supervision or combination of the 2 within 3 years, you get disqualified. So there's a type action when dealing with CDL. It's called an SC, Sam Charlie, supervision conviction. So if you're given one of these tickets as a CDL driver and you're given supervision on it, it's treated as a conviction. So sometimes getting supervision for these type of charges isn't the best thing to do. Sometimes you guys try and get it lowered in court, reduced. So these are serious violations for the purpose of a disqualification. So if you're convicted of one of these, you will lose your CDL portion of your license. The first 3 are alcohol offenses, leaving the scene of an accident, felony, and then railroad. Okay. Any DUI leaving the scene or felony conviction will result in a disqualification of the CDL. And that's also while in your commercial vehicle. While you're in a commercial vehicle, a DUI is .04. In your car, if you hold a CDL license but you're driving a car and you receive a DUI, it would still have to be .08. And if you're convicted, you will, besides possibly being revoked, you'll also be disqualified. One of the, we don't print Illinois vehicle codes anymore. We haven't printed them since 2014, although I believe West Publishing still prints them privately if anyone is interested. However, we access it online now, and here's the website to access the vehicle code online. Traffic offense table, and I believe that's one of the handouts. If you wanted to access it online, this is the entry to use, but I believe I gave a handout on that. All the tickets, and it breaks it down if they're immediate action, point tickets, and non-point tickets. Non-point ticket, for typical is seatbelt. It doesn't matter how many convictions you have, you're not going to lose your driving privileges. This here is a breakdown of the type actions. This is what sets up the line when you're reading a driving record. So for example, if you're looking at a 94, you're looking at immediate action conviction. There's no points assigned because it's immediate action. And if you have questions, there's the phone numbers in Springfield to call for the particular departments dealing with these entries. Here is what I was talking about earlier. Type action SC, supervision, conviction. And again, that's when you commit an offense in a commercial motor vehicle or a CDL holder. And that's where a lot of people get confused. If you hold a CDL, but you're driving your car, you're a CDL holder, you commit those offenses, you'll still get disqualified. So these are all the breakdowns with the phone numbers for the corresponding departments at the Secretary of State. That's more than double the amount of entries from when I first started in 1985. These are different abbreviations you'll see throughout the process of dealing with abstracts, hearings. BAID, B-A-I-I-D, breath alcohol ignition interlock device. Some people call it a blow and go. I've heard many names for it, but when you're a first offender for the purpose of a summary suspension, which is a 6-month suspension for failing, 12 months for refusing, and that's when first offender is no prior DUI disposition within 5 years of the current arrest. You're eligible to get what's called an MDDP, monitoring device driving permit. It's a permit, it's the newer version of what used to be called a JDP. The difference with this is this permit is valid 24/7 as long as you're driving a vehicle equipped with a BAID machine. There's no other type of permit that you're eligible to get. You cannot get a restricted driving permit for that suspension. You'd have to get an MDDP. CNSS, Compliance and Support Services. CDL, Commercial Driver's License. DUI. Field means Field Services Bureau, and that's part of a section in Springfield dealing with locations for the Secretary of State offices. Hearings, administrative hearings, our department. LNMR, license and medical review. So again, if a person has certain medical conditions, their case is sent to medical review where it's determined if they're medically fit to safely operate a vehicle. We don't do that at hearings. There's a department for that. That's medical review. SNFR, Safety and Financial Responsibility section. Accidents without insurance. SR22. What's also going through them is family responsibility, which is child support. It all goes through the SNFR department. And TV is for traffic violations section. And they're basically the keeper of the record. Nobody's perfect with driving records. What I will tell you is, as the Secretary of State's office, we keep the record of what is sent to us. So we get a lot of times people, attorneys coming in, even with transcripts, this was motioned up, he was found not guilty. Why is it still on his record? Probably because the court never bothered to send it to us, which is very common. So we keep the record of what we have, or what we receive, and that determines what type of action is taken. A lot of the tickets, at least from Illinois courts, they do direct entry, so they have the ability to transfer it into the system where it goes on the driving record, and if it's a DUI conviction, that'll trigger the revocation. If it needs to be corrected, you got to get a transcript from the court indicating the proper disposition, and I would not wait for the court to send it down. I would send it down yourself. The court doesn't always send them down. If it's a conviction, they send it down. If it's motioned up, they're not good at sending them down.
Someone recently, I think, at the last training said, if it's a good thing, chances are they won't report it. If it's a bad thing, chances are they will. So just kind of...
Well, if it's a bad thing, I wouldn't say chances are they'll report it.
They will.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of cases where, and I've seen them, where the case was brought back up, especially when the initial loss of driving privileges is based on a bond forfeiture conviction. And the court never bothered to send it down, and I've talked to them where they've told me, I went to court, they said they threw it out or whatever. I said, you got to go to the court, get the transcript. Person's been driving around for years, revoked, when he could have been cleared if he would have sent down the transcript himself.
Right.
So it's
simple stuff sometimes.
It's simple but common.
Yeah. Right. Well, great. Well, thanks, Ira. I don't see any questions yet. So, again, if you're on the webinar, please feel free to type in any questions. We've got a few minutes here at the end. But yeah, I guess I'll kick off with just sort of a broad question. Is this is an audience of legal aid attorneys who are seeing people come in, mostly from different avenues, but needing help with getting a license to work, and that being the barrier. And so, is there any just sort of broad perspective that you can give in terms of I'm an attorney or paralegal or someone who's seeing someone come in the door and they say, oh, my driver's license is suspended, what's kind of the triage that they should go through, or the initial steps?
Well, to be blunt, there's a lot involved with that. There are quite a few different types of suspensions. They're not eligible for a restricted driving permit, especially those non-compliance suspensions. You comply, and then you get your license back. Part of the problem with that is, let's take parking tickets, City of Chicago. You might owe $10,000. It's easy for us to say, well, just go comply, and then you get your license. But if I had to come up with $10,000, I couldn't. And it'd be up to the city if they would accept any type of a payment plan, and then they would have to send a release. I don't know if that's going to happen right now. But I know they're looking to do away with it. There are certain types of suspensions, or really revocations, that have what's called hard time, where no driving privileges can be issued during a certain period of time. If you have 4 convictions for DUI, for example, you have a lifetime revocation. First 5 years of that is hard time, no privileges can be issued. And it's 5 years from start of revocation or release from prison for the most recent DUI, whichever is greater or later. If you're a minor, under 21, convicted of DUI, it's a 2-year revocation. First year is hard time still, no driving privileges can be issued. Summary revocation, if you're in an accident with personal injury, along with a DUI arrest, and they do it as a summary revocation instead of a statutory summary suspension, the old 606-831, that first year is hard time, no privileges can be issued. So there's a bunch of different periods like that. If a person is convicted of reckless homicide or felony DUI where a death occurred, and then gets 3 convictions for driving while revoked, that person then also gets a lifetime revocation where no privileges at all could be issued. It takes years. It takes a really long time to really master reading a driving record. I'm actually so used to the internals that the words mess me up, and I just look at all the numbers and I breeze right through them. But I've been trained on that since 1985. One thing I would say is, if any of you ever have a question with one of your clients or something, you could always, best would be email me. My email is I for Ira, M as in Mary, AIMON @ sos.gov. You could email me, you know, who you are with your question. If it's regarding a driving record, send me the driver's license number, and I'll be able to, you know, look it up and email you back a response. Email's the best way to get a hold of me.
Great, and I will type that in the chat box here too, but it looks like we do have some questions now that are coming in, so thank you for those. The first one is, how do we get the abstracts when the client comes in with a ticket? You showed us a Secretary of State abstract, but which one does the attorney get for the court date?
Well, you want to get the court purpose abstract, and you get those at any facility. They're $12. Yeah, you could possibly even tell your client to pick one up before they come to see you, but they would make sure they get the court purpose abstract.
Great.
That's the one they have to get, because that shows everything that the court is going to have also.
And that's any facility?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Driver's license facility.
Right, yeah. Okay. Next question is, with 4 DUIs, how many years do you need to serve on the revocation before you could ask for a restricted driving permit? Okay,
so I'm going to state with 4 DUIs, it's 4 DUI convictions. And 4 DUI convictions is a lifetime revocation. The first 5 years is hard time, where no privileges at all could be issued. After that, he can be issued a restricted driving permit, and for right now, the way the law reads, he would have to have a permit for the rest of his life while he needs it. Now, something we did just start implementing this year is when a person has a multi-year suspension or revocation, including lifetime, the permits are now being issued for 2 years instead of 1.
Okay, great. The next question is, are RDPs for 1 year or 2 years?
Okay. The majority of RDPs are issued for 1 year. But again, if the person has a multi-year suspension or revocation, let me give an example. If a person has a 3-year suspension for refusing a breathalyzer and has a hearing, that person will be issued a 2-year permit because his suspension is longer than a year. If a person has 2 convictions for DUI, that's a 5-year revocation, or 3 convictions for DUI, it's a 10-year revocation. We will issue them 2-year permits because they have a multi-year revocation.
So it depends on how long that revocation is.
Yeah, it depends on the driving record. Multi-year suspension and revocations are now getting issued 2-year permits.
Okay. Next question is, could you explain first offense DUI process?
Okay. So there's the civil and criminal. The civil is the statutory summary suspension. First offender for the purpose of statutory summary suspension is no prior DUI disposition within 5 years from the current arrest. And that's the 17, the statutory summary suspension. So if you're a first offender for the purpose of statutory summary suspension, if you fail a test, it's a 6-month suspension. If you refuse, it's 12 months. And again, that's as long as if there's no prior DUI disposition within 5 years, any type of DUI disposition within 5 years, for the purpose of summary suspension only, you're first offender. Then you have the actual DUI, and first offender is your first arrest. If you get supervision, you know, you're only allowed 1 supervision in a lifetime. What happens in court, I've seen strange things happen in court. I just had a case recently this week where the person has first DUI, the summary suspension got rescinded, and he got court supervision. Second DUI, he was convicted. Then he got a third DUI. Summary suspension was rescinded, and for whatever reason, the judge reduced that to reckless driving after he's had a conviction. Very rare. It was downstate. I can't remember what county it was, but not one I'm familiar with, but it's very uncommon. But, again, going back, we look at first offender only under the summary suspension guidelines, which, again, is no prior DUI disposition within 5 years from the current DUI. For the purpose of the DUI itself, you're only allowed one supervision in a lifetime, but like I just said, I've seen stranger things happen. And length of revocation, for example, is determined by amount of DUI convictions, not arrest. If one conviction for DUI is a 1-year revocation, 2 convictions is a 5-year revocation, 3 convictions is a 10-year revocation, 4 convictions is a lifetime. We also use out-of-state DUIs to determine lifetime, and we also run a type of a record called PDPS, Problem Driver Point System. It's a federal database. So for example, if you have 1 DUI conviction on your Illinois driving record, and we run PDPS and we find 3 more convictions in other states, that's a lifetime here.